In this video, we're going to talk about recruiting HR people. I'll be talking to someone who finds HR talent for her clients, and she might have tips for you. That's coming up right now. Hi there, I'm Andrea Adams and the host of HR Shop Talk. It's a show where you get some expert insight into HR. I encourage you to subscribe to the show by clicking on the button at the bottom of the screen so you can continue learning from my smart and experienced guests. Today, my guest is Kim Wilkinson. She's been recruiting for years, first for an agency, and now she's the Director of Recruitment for Verve Recruitment Group. She also won an award for her recruiting in 2020, and so we know she knows what she's talking about. Hi, Kim.
Hi.
You conduct recruiting for companies who are hiring HR professionals, among other things. So can you just describe a little bit of what has changed in the last 10 years?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say what I've noticed as of late has been a huge shift from HR being a tactical administrative position to HR moving into a true partner to the business. And so companies that are really successfully utilizing their HR are seeing them as someone who has that seat at the leadership table and really taking those business strategies and aligning it with the people side of their business. Yeah, I'd also say that I'm seeing a lot more HR professionals go out on their own and provide more of a contract or consultative service. There are a lot of organizations that maybe can't justify the cost of HR on a full-time basis. And so we'll lean on a consultant to come in for, X amount of time, either per week or per month, to really add value to their organization.
So are there wider trends in recruiting that people who are looking for a job, and I mean, we're talking to HR professionals here, but in general, people should be aware of?
I would say just when I am recruiting for talent, I'm looking for that critical thinker. And so that is that individual who is proactive in their own learning, proactive in looking at what resources are available to them, and also looking at how they can add value to the organization outside of a structured job position. I think gone are the days of, I tick these 4 boxes and that's what I do, and don't talk to me about anything else. And so a more flexible and nimble candidate is definitely going to be, what companies are looking for.
So let's talk a little bit about each of those things that you've just mentioned, starting with that shift from being tactical to being a business partner. What does that look like?
So I think the change would be from, oftentimes, I think the old school mentality around HR is, put the wine away. HR is coming, like they're there to enforce no fun rules, or they're to make sure that, people aren't having fun. And I know that's a little cliche, but, I think there is a certain level of truth and aspect that that's how they look at, HR is coming,
Yep.
Don't say that or whatnot. And, HR is there to process terminations, to fill out onboarding paperwork, to work with WCB, and then all of those things, do fall under HR from an administrative standpoint. But when the shift happens to HR being utilized as a business partner, they're there informing the strategy and how they can build and develop and utilize their talent to achieve business goals. And so that candidate is an individual who understands the business strategy as a whole, as it relates to people and as it doesn't, and is someone who can marry those thoughts together to bring forward organizational success.
So you also talked about candidates consulting. What does that mean to HR recruitment?
Yeah, I think it's just being open to doing contract work and understanding that that is potentially the way HR is moving into the future. And while we're going to see it more prevalent now in small to medium-sized businesses, just from a cost saving standpoint, I think in the future, we may also see larger organizations take advantage of it as well. And why I see that as being a value add is that, you've got your HR team, say you're a large enterprise, 5,000 to 7,000 company, you've got your team of 10 HR individuals looking after different groups. You do start to become a little bit I guess, siloed and into your own environment. And so I think there would be tremendous value in bringing in supplementary HR if you are truly utilizing them as a partner to your business, just to create some diversity of thought. Right. I mean, I think it's crazy to think that, we've got this team and we're going to think of absolutely everything on the table, where if you're going through a large initiative or change in your organization, bringing in some other, points of view, I think could really just elevate your business as a whole.
So those candidates who are out there who might be open to that kind of role, how should they be presenting themselves if they're going to apply for a job like that?
Yeah, so I think, there's a few different ways that you can kind of get into that market. A is obviously working with a recruiter. I will often have clients reach out to me who need or have a contract HR resource requirement. And so I can help facilitate that. Also, there are small independent firms where they essentially have business and kind of assign people to different pieces of work, because I think the biggest challenge for HR is that they love the HR work, but to go out and be a consultant on your own also involves a bit of business development, which isn't typically a skill set that HR looks to nurture within themselves. And there are some exceptions to that rule, but I would say as a general, that's not their top strength. And so, partnering with an HR consulting agency kind of fits both pieces, because they have someone who is out there developing that business, and then they are able to do the work that they love. So I don't know if there's anything from a application standpoint that you could do differently. I think it's just making sure that you're partnering yourself with the people who are most exposed to those types of opportunities.
Okay, so that sounds a lot like networking.
Totally. Yeah.
I mean,
it is a lot like networking.
And sometimes, that's difficult. But, if you're going to get into that kind of work, maybe that's what you need to get good at doing.
Well, absolutely. And I think working on your personal branding and ensuring that you are out there and viewable in your community is also very important. I will say that I think in terms of resume formatting, ensuring that your resume is not your job description copied and pasted, that you've listed it with quantifiable achievements and results, because that is what, if I'm an employee or employer, hiring an HR consultant, I usually have a deliverable in mind. And so if your resume lists out your deliverables that you've achieved, that is going to better align you to that type of work for sure.
If you found this interesting, subscribe and you'll see all the episodes, and help other HR professionals out. What have you noticed when you've been applying for HR jobs? Let us know in the comment section below. You talked about personal branding. Can you also talk about, or can you just elaborate on that a bit more and what that looks like for an HR person who's looking for a job?
Absolutely. So I am a huge advocate for personal branding. In opening my own organization a year and a half ago, had I not invested in my personal brand years ago and continued to invest in it, I would not have seen the success that I have seen. And so I think HR, absolutely, and every profession, people should be focused on their own personal brand. And so what that looks like for me is making sure that you have an idea of who your audience is. So for example, my audience is professionals in Calgary. That's where I'm recruiting. So I try and curate a network that is focused on that group. So for HR professionals, you may want to make sure that you're actively connecting with small business owners, general managers, other HR peers, and the like. And so being active about connecting and growing your network. I think sometimes people really overthink, and sorry, I'm referencing LinkedIn because it is just such a great tool for professional networking. I think people sometimes really overthink that program, and they're like, oh, it's Facebook, I have to know someone, or I have to send a personalized message. You don't. Just send it out. And there is no bad connection on LinkedIn. And then showing up. And so what that looks like is actively posting. So I mandate for myself, I post 2 to 3 times a week, playing around with times that post where you'll get the most activity. I usually find that the success rate for my posts is usually between 7:30 and 8 in the morning. And then also interacting with other people's posts. So, you're connected with some HR peers, they've written an interesting piece out, comment. Anytime you do that, all it does is create visibility for your own profile.
Okay, those are some great tips in there. The other area was more general of trends you've seen in recruiting, and it was around being proactive, looking to add value, and being flexible. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think when I talk about, proactive employees and sort of proactive learners, I guess, are people who look for areas to add value versus waiting to be told what to do. I think, and this goes across all bands of employment, is as an employee, your job essentially is to make your supervisor's job easier. And so how can I do that? How can I make sure that I'm accountable to myself and what I need to do? How can I be accountable to my team and help out where needed? If there's a gap in my knowledge base, what am I doing about that? And I think it's really important, especially in this day and age, that you are very active in your learning, understanding where you can enhance your learning to then create more value for the organization.
Well, if I have heard another trend in these interviews I've been doing, that would be the other one, continuous learning.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes companies offer it, but sometimes you can take the bull by the horns, and it doesn't even have to look like a professional course. It could be like, I know for me, there are podcasts that I listen to that just start to generate different thought processes for me. There are some great books available to read. It even can be having some insightful conversations with other professionals in your space, just again, to introduce some different ideas and diversity of thought.
So final question, and just maybe to summarize some of the things that you've already talked about, but if an HR professional asked you for advice about their job hunt, what would you tell them in 2 or 3 minutes?
Sure. So I would say definitely look at your resume and make sure that it's results focused and not task focused.
Okay.
I would make sure that you have put your LinkedIn up to date and that you are active and engaging out in the community. And I would make sure that you're open to all possibilities. Contract and consulting work, people have these preconceptions about it, but can be a lot of fun and can be very rewarding work. And so be open to it.
Well, thanks, Kim. That was great. So hopefully this episode will help you if you're looking for a job. Kim and I also did an episode on how HR could do a better job of recruiting when it's our responsibility. I have put a link to that episode at the end of this one. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.